Good morning and welcome back to MLG Anaheim. It is day 2. My name is Day 9 and I am joined by Cats. What is going on?
Not too much, just waking up and getting ready for a fantastic day of events today.
Yeah, I mean, thus far we've already gotten to see some of the pool play unfold as 6 players qualified into that. But yesterday the open bracket kicked off and 4 players managed to make it out of that. And I mean, even though you would want to say that the qualified players are the highest caliber, the history of MLG speaks otherwise. The open bracket tends to be the hardest part of the tournament by far.
Yeah, and this time it's no different. I mean, there was so many good matches in the open bracket. Linok lost to Stardust, for example, one of the players that will be playing today. DongRaeGu here defeated Life to get where he is.
Yeah, that means now that the 4 players that have made it out of the open bracket, 3 Zergs, 1 Protoss, Ragnarok, Hyun, DongRaeGu, and Stardust will be advancing on to pool play, and up on main stage we'll be looking at all the group play matches throughout the day. Let's talk a little bit about Pool A.
All right, so we have Polt going up 4-0 yesterday, is still undefeated, including the opening match against Scarlet, who defeated him yesterday, or yeah, was it yesterday? And the Red Bull just, wow, 6-1. So Polt doing fantastic there. Puck starting a really strong day, defeating Trap in his first match, but then not managing to follow that up with a consistent play and just going down the next 3 matches.
I mean, it's actually kind of weird to look at how the matches have unfolded because, I mean, I think Polt is going to be the obvious leader, 4-0, no big surprise there. But Scarlet and Trap and Illusion all 2-2. Illusion actually managing to beat Trap. Puck managing to beat Trap. Scarlet losing to Trap, losing to Polt. I mean, this is already a big series of upsets. Petraeus, that 1-3 record, I think doesn't really show how excellently he was playing yesterday and how close the series were.
Yeah, I think he had the 2 games against Trap. He was in a pretty good spot to win those, and if that had happened, then you switch Trap with Petraeus, which is crazy, right? Petraeus would be 2-2. Trap would be the 1-1-3. Can you imagine that?
I mean, already we're seeing that it was sort of hoped that it would be fairly close in terms of the outcome, and we see that playing out through these results. But of course, it's going to be much harder now that Hyun and DongRaeGu are joining the group. Or excuse me, Hyun and Ragnarok are joining the group. This is something that happens every single time at MLG, where you get those 2 wildcard players from the open bracket stepping into pool play, and they tend to get the top spots.
Yeah, I mean, the pool play players are determined in advance. These guys are hot, and they you know they are because
they're
they
good
showed
today,
it yesterday.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's such a great point to bring up. I mean, a lot of these players were in qualifiers, spent a lot of time practicing for those, and then there's been a big break. There's been events in between. There's been things like DreamHack that could be affecting your exhaustion level, that sort of thing. But now here we see that Hyun and Ragnarok are playing in prime shape. Taking a look at Group B, again, a pretty surprising set of results. When you look at that, you have players like TLO and Major, who I thought were going to be the leaders in the group. But instead, Huck and Violet are coming out, with Violet being 4-0 in his first big return tournament.
Yeah, I think this might be the closest group we've ever had at MLG, really. Like, I could not have predicted this group for the life of me, and I think that any of these players could have taken the top, to be honest.
And now that we have Stardust and DongRaeGu being thrown in the mix, how do you think that's going to influence the rest of the group?
I think that they are the clear favorites in the group, to be honest. I mean, the group is a great group of players, but DongRaeGu and Stardust having such great performance just yesterday.
Oh, absolutely.
I think they're the clear favorites. I think whoever wins this match might end up winning the entire group.
Well, I mean, the important position to be in is in one of the top 2 slots. If you are in place 1 or 2, then on Championship Sunday, tomorrow, you get placed into the semifinals of the winner's bracket. 3rd all the way down to 8th get placed in the lower bracket side. So if you can get 1st or 2nd in your group, you're guaranteed at least 2 lives going into Sunday. Also, while we're seeing the groups play out today, the open bracket lowers will be continuing to play out. So many players, 1 best-of-3 away from being jettisoned from the tournament. And those will be the players that will be the farthest from the championship on Sunday.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I'm one of those players, still in the loser bracket.
Wait, so. That's right. You and Nathanius are playing in this event.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so Cats and Nathanius signed up to play at this event, and then were invited to cast the event. And you were just like, oh, of course, I can do both, no problem.
That was tough. Yeah.
And do you play in that tie?
Yes. I played Jaedong in my tie.
In your pink tie?
Yeah.
Did it help?
No, I mean...
No, it was Dong. Jaedong.
Yeah, man. I figured if I'm gonna go out to Jaedong, I better go out in style.
I like it.
I think I did. I think I did well.
Well, you know, I'm really excited to have you here alongside me up top. I mean, I know you might be worried about elimination, but I have a present for you. First match is going to be DongRaeGu versus Stardust. Yes, thank God. Yes. I like an excited crowd in the morning instead of just, that's a satisfactory matchup.
Yeah, we have DongRaeGu there on camera. He's looking prepared. He's one of my mentors, you know, since Wings of Liberty. He's been a good friend, and he's an excellent player.
Well, I mean, walk me through how his style has changed, because there was the DongRaeGu of 2011 and 2012, and then he was a ghost, and now he's come back really strong, has had deep runs in GSL. What's his ZVP like?
Right now, his CVP is mostly consistent of Roach, Ling into Muta. He's actually, I'm not sure how he feels about CVP, because those are the units that I try to avoid for the most part.
Yeah.
Like I love Hydralisks. I like Swarm Hosts very much. DongRaeGu does not like either of these units, so it's a little bit surprising. Yeah.
I'm actually curious if you're feeling that the Swarm Host. Actually, well, I mean, I was about to say, what do you think the weaknesses of the Swarm Host are? And I know that if you get a lot, everyone's like, well, it's impossible to stop. But there's so much struggle to get to Swarm Hosts. And we've seen Stardust be one of the most aggressive Protoss players with those gateway-based timings. How do you think that the sort of aggro, gateway-heavy style of Stardust will pair up against DongRaeGu's sort of favoritism towards that Mutalisk style?
I think it'll be fine for DongRaeGu, actually. I think this is the kind of matchup that DongRaeGu probably wants, because Roaches and Lings are the base of his composition, and then he'll transition into Muta whenever he gets the chance. So I think that he should be fine against the styles.
Stardust, on the other hand, is a player who kind of went from zero to hero overnight. He was a DreamHack event in 2013. He was one of those players who you'd kind of heard of and maybe seen on the ladder, but he wasn't a really big, notable face. But then all of a sudden brought out this very aggressive, very new school style of PvZ that was less reliant on Phoenixes, less reliant on air, and instead involved very, very, very aggressive timings with lots of sentries and lots of zealots. And it has just been, I mean, it's been magnificent to see a success in it. But lately, Stardust has kind of returned to the more all-around, well-rounded Protoss style.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's damn good at it. So I really don't know who's going to take this match.
Well, the first map is going to be King Sejong Station. And in this map, I mean, you can make the argument for the Mutalisks being very strong, making it a Zerg-favored map. You can make the argument for the counter warp-in paths and the difficulty of managing warp prisms. Another sort of boon for Protoss. What's your analysis of this in this matchup?
It's a pretty balanced matchup. I mean, CVP is one of the most fun matchups to play, and any style goes, and that's what I love about it most.
I mean, well, I mean, I'm sort of curious if you think that there's a particular Zerg mix, because I mean, there's obviously the Swarm Host is popular. We have the Mutalisks, we have the Roach Hydra type pushes, and that sort of thing is going to be super critical when it comes to deciding what the optimal strategy is on this map. And I mean, given the sort of lack of center, what's the sort of strategy of choice that you'd be looking for?
Anything goes, Sean.
Anything goes?
Anything goes.
All right,
it's
cool.
It's a very reactive matchup as well.
Well, at this point in time, yeah.
Invites to the games, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, now on King Sejong Station yesterday, we've gotten the chance to see a lot of interesting, a lot of weird matches on it. I think the TLO Major match showed, even though it's not the same matchup as this one, a lot of the sort of craziness that can happen on it. The fact that there's no easy control spot. I mean, you think about a map like Overgrowth, there's just the two watchtowers, and there's the closer one and the farther one. You kind of see the impending doom coming at any point. But here, it seems really difficult to even put a safe spot for Overlords.
Yeah, it is, and like you mentioned, the watchtowers are so far away, so it's a little bit tougher to do that kind of thing. At the same time, mutas are going to be fantastic on this map.
Well, it looks like.
Yep, we're in.
Looks like the match is getting started, and there it is. The countdown begins. Okay, there we go. Heading into day 2, both of these players are 0-0 in their round-robin group. The first
6-0 in their overall play.
Yeah, even though they're 0-0, they've had a lot of wins to get here. Again, that open bracket was running concurrently with the broadcasts that were happening up on main stage. So in this first match, I think we're absolutely going to see fireworks. MVP's DongRaeGu versus My Insanity's Stardust.
And here on the top right-hand side of the map, top left-hand side of the map actually, spawning as the red Protoss player. For My Insanity, please give it up for Stardust.
And down in the bottom right, the bearer of an MLG championship, and of course, one of those popular Zergs, MVP's DongRaeGu.
And we have a pylon first in the main, so we're probably going to see a gateway opener by Stardust here, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I know that on this map it can feel a little awkward to try to do the wall off because, I mean, that's like the biggest ramp possible for a natural expansion. But in this spot, I mean, Stardust is known for loving to go for a fast third nexus. And it seems not just hard to take your natural, but especially tricky to take your third, too.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's a pretty wide open third on this map. And there's also the rocks in the back to take care of. So we saw Violet, for example, taking great advantage of that last night against Huck. Just breaking the rocks creates an extra path, and then all the Protoss builds have to kind of account for that. You know, you have to build extra gateways. You have to build extra buildings there that you don't necessarily want. So.
Well, because, I mean, there's the defensive side of things. I'm going to build more cannons, more units. I'm going to be more watchful of it. But there's also the attacking side. I'm going to move out and try to preempt your counterattacks by making you on the defensive. Do you think it's possible for Protoss to do that successfully in the mid-game against Zerg? I mean, the Roach Hydra styles have been so... Well, actually, all styles are pretty potent for Zerg on this map.
Yeah, I think so. At the same time, for the same reasons, the Protoss can also take advantage of those rocks. Because those rocks create a pretty small choke that obviously is going to be fantastic with sentries and force fields. So maybe immortal timings and things of that sort could work out pretty well, or just gateway timings heavy on sentries, like we talked about Stardust likes doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a really big revelation for a lot of Protoss players that normally the sentry you view as a support unit. You know, you want to get a couple for some force fields, guardian shields. Stardust builds like 15 sentries that are surprisingly good against Mutalisks as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know about that one. They're not that great against Mutalisks, but in those numbers, they will tickle them enough to kill.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, that's what makes it so cool is that, you know, if you look at, like, what are the best units against Mutalisks, Sentry's going to be like, I don't know, 5 for Protoss, but it's the timing that Stardust hits at, where the Zerg only has 8 Mutalisks, where the Zerg doesn't have enough damage to threaten them.
Yeah, this is absolutely true. I mean, when you're going for Mutalisks, you want to get them out on your opponent's side of the map as soon as possible. And if your opponent's attacking into you while you're making them, then that's the best timing that they can hit you at.
Oh, interesting. 2 sort of cool things happening right now. Double chrono boost on the cybernetics core. Very classic Stardust. Loves to get warp gates up quickly, not just for defense, but also for those timing attacks. But on DongRaeGu's side of things, we're seeing it seems like an extremely defensive, slow play. It's not just speed, but also extra queens. The third hatch has been quite delayed from, you know, what's pretty typical in this matchup.
Yeah, he's scouting everywhere. And now it's 3 gateways for Stardust, so we are going to have pressure, but DongRaeGu's not really taking a third, so what is he going to pressure?
Well, Stardust, I think, is excellent at checking in, finding if there's a third, and if there's none, he can just expand very, very safely. Lots of Zerglings en route for DongRaeGu. It looks like DongRaeGu has smelled this one out easily.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that DongRaeGu hasn't tried to take another advantage. Whenever you don't take a third, you can take a different advantage. You can still drone up, maybe make a spine, and start taking a little bit faster. That's what Nesty likes doing in a position like this. And DongRaeGu actually going for the counterattack. Has Stardust seen it?
Well, looks like Stardust is just spotted that there's no third. He's beginning to move forward. Seeing the Mothership Core step in.
Yeah, this could be really good for DongRaeGu, actually, if he can manage to get inside Stardust's natural base here.
Uh-oh, Stalker's getting morphed in. Stardust has to be extremely careful and make sure that he uses that recall immediately. It looks like the first Zealot is taking some big damage.
Oh, but the Lynx get in, Sean.
Oh, no! Stardust has to recall right away and just have those Stalkers there to defend. He does so, but not before taking massive damage on all his units.
Yeah, he'll lose a Stalker there and a few probes. So that was all in all pretty good for DongRaeGu, who can now take a safe third while still doing damage with the Lynx in the main of Stardust.
Looks like only one gas in the main. No gas anywhere else, and a one gas third Nexus. I mean, normally you'd say, that's going to be a little bit of a problem, but DongRaeGu's only just started his third base. It's like a minute behind what would normally be considered a late hatch.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, Stardust did warp in Stalkers. He really has no gas to speak of. He has a 1 Sentry, 3 Stalkers, and there's not going to be any tech coming anytime soon. So how do you stop these Lynx from DongRaeGu from denying your third when you're in a position like this?
Well, I mean, classical Stardust would just be building as many frickin' Zealots and Sentries as he could, charging forward and taking control of it. But, you know, like you were talking about earlier, it's the mobility of all these small units that DongRaeGu is so good at using. He can get the Zerglings to deny the third and then to pick down the rocks. Then the Roaches arrive, and they're more muscular. At this point, Stardust has only just begun a Forge. I feel like he's so far behind on tech, he has to take a third Nexus.
He absolutely does. It's just a matter of how does he do it. There's so many Lynx still here. He doesn't have enough force fields to section them off or save a Nexus. So he's going to try to move out with just, you know, warping in enough units to do so. Also warping out those 3 Stalkers, I think, was a little bit of a mistake by Stardust. Maybe he got the wrong read. He was like, you don't have a third yet, you must be going Roaches.
He may have read, you know, the no gas double queen, or excuse me, a quadruple queen play.
Yeah.
Which, absolutely great to go Stalkers on. Zerglings can't catch up to them. You can deny creep tumors and control the third base. Here's Stardust taking the third. I wonder if he's actually going to avoid getting a Twilight Council too fast and is rather going to do a very fast 7 or 8 gate push.
It's possible. He has started +1 attack on the Forge. So I think the Twilight is the more, you know, the more likely follow-up here.
Ooh, a Stargate.
Okay, what do you think this was?
Whoa,
okay.
oh,
that makes more sense.
Okay, I'm liking this. Now, on this map, obviously Mutalisks, as you said, are very, very strong. What's a way to get the Phoenixes up? Oh, well, you get the Void Ray count up very high. You can deal with Roaches and Zerglings early on because, well, you have Void Rays. And if Zerg tries to transition to Mutalisks, you have the snap answer already prepared.
Yeah, and I think DongRaeGu was pretty ready for Stardust's early game. But it seems like going into the mid-game, Stardust is very prepared for DongRaeGu's style. Again, DongRaeGu, a player that prefers going Roaches into Muta. And like you said, what do you do against 3 Stargates? Oh. He does scout him, though.
He does scout it.
I guess we'll find out. Oh, the cancel!
Oh, I heard the cries of the Zerg players in the audience. He doesn't know!
Yeah, he doesn't know now.
No. Oh, that's an amazing answer. I mean, 10 times out of 10, you're going to be thinking all about how to deal with massive amounts of Void Rays. You have to re-stereotype your responses. So strong, and now DongRaeGu's going to begin trailing behind in the lane count, trailing behind in his ability to pressure. We're seeing the Roaches almost done knocking down that backside.
Yeah, and again, once his rocks are down, that means that there's 2 pathways that Stardust needs to split his army between. So, luckily for him, DongRaeGu is now sending additional units to the third, so this could get pretty dicey for Stardust.
Stardust with his classic extremely high sentry count. Waits until he can get the force field before using the photon overcharge, trapping those Roaches in there. But, I mean, I think that this was a terrible moment right now for Stardust. Stardust has revealed that he doesn't have the 2 extra Stargates. And, I mean, now all of a sudden DongRaeGu just goes, oh, well, I'm not building Hydras. I'm going to get that Spire, man.
Yeah, he really doesn't like making the Hydras, so he must be pretty happy.
Now, walk me through what's going on DongRaeGu's side of things. He's taking a lot of expansions. I assume we'll see a 5th, maybe even a 6th coming up. What's the play for DongRaeGu?
I think he's going to continue to apply pressure with Roach Ling, and whenever he can, he will make a lot of Muta. He does have the gas banked up to make up to 10 Muta right now, as soon as the Spire finishes, maybe even 12 by the time it finishes. And all he wants to do is keep Stardust on his side of the map. Very nice recall.
Extremely nicely timed recall. That Oracle's just parked, waiting for an opportunity to deal a lot of damage. More sentries get morphed in Stardust with just that classic huge sentry count, 9 out already. That's a very good number of things to have.
Yeah, DongRaeGu's happy to see that the Stargate's not producing anything right now, though. So those links completely worth it. And again, just pressuring with the units that he has with the Roach Ling is going to force Stardust to stay on his side of the map, and then the Muta go in and do the damage they need to do.
Yeah, Stardust's timing window is getting very, very small right now. We're seeing DongRaeGu's pressure having every single one of those units held back. Defensive blinks. Oh, force fields that are actually working against Protoss. The Oracle and the Void Ray are beginning to poke down at that bottom left expansion, but 14 mutas have just begun. I think that Stardust has missed his attack window.
Yeah, I think so as well. He's killing some drones at least, but what is he going to do from here? He wishes he hadn't canceled those Stargates at this point. Or rebuild them somewhere else, like triple Mind Games or something would have been nice.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the stability of 3 Stargates on this map is far more worthwhile than the surprise of not having them. But let's be honest, the Dark Shrine, that's going to turn it around.
It's quite possible, but it's going to be a tough uphill battle from Stardust from here. Now he's lost map control completely to DongRaeGu's incredibly mobile army. DongRaeGu poking in with the Mutas, going to continue to poke in with the Roaches and Lings, and he's just going to look to take a 5th soon and saturate his 4th.
This is just a gruesome spot to be in for Stardust. Roach Ling on the right of the 3rd base. Cannons in really surprisingly good positions. Phoenixes starting to gently get made, but you need at least 2 Stargates in this position to go toe-to-toe with the ever-rising Mutaflock.
Yeah, definitely. Now, let's take a look at the... Oh, and there's the Stargates again, so...
Hey.
Yeah, welcome back.
Oh my god, builds him right under the Overseer. DongRaeGu's timing with these scouts is great.
Yeah, he sees the Dark Shrine as well, so if there weren't enough sports before, there will be now. DongRaeGu going in for the 3rd now, going to take that cannon pretty quickly. He's just looking for probe kills. I don't think he's going to be going for the Nexus, but just anything works for DongRaeGu right now.
Well, it looks like Stardust is having to micro in 2 places at once and can't keep up with it. He loses 2 Phoenixes immediately. The Stalker Sentry army does knock down the Ling Roach pack, so there's more chances, some more opportunities coming up for Stardust. Now he can begin to engage these Mutalisks. One more blink would be able to pick off a few, but no, the cooldown's too long.
Yeah, he is pushing DongRaeGu back now. The Mutas are getting pushed back, and he's on his side of the map now. That means that if he continues to push, and he just might, he's just going to back. All right, I guess he's comfortable with 3 Stargates he's made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with 3 Stargates, you're basically claiming, I will eventually outclass you in the skies. So no reason to rush. Only thing he is missing is the Fleet Beacon.
Yeah, absolutely. The 5th for DongRaeGu is a little bit late, in my opinion. Lots of cannons for Stardust, so he's getting ready to move out. Maybe he'll just move out and kind of tell DongRaeGu, all right, let's go for the base trade, and then leave the Phoenix back. That would be a really cool play. We actually saw In Control defeat Scarlet with that play in one of the MLG tournaments, actually, the online tournament.
Yeah, yeah. Dark Templar is very cutely positioned here for Stardust. Fleet Beacon popping out, +3 popping out. Very close game at this point.
Yeah, it's shaping up pretty nicely. I think DongRaeGu still has a lead, but it's not as big as it used to be. He's moving in, though, into Stardust's 3rd right now.
Stardust carefully spending his money on those cannons to make sure he has the extra support that he needs to fight this force. But we're seeing DongRaeGu decide to accept this. A surprising engagement for Zerg, wanting to take this fight. Force fields prevent the Stalkers from getting too good of angles, but again, we're seeing a Zerg army that has almost no ground.
Yeah, he basically traded all the links on the ground and tried to keep the Mutas alive. He's saying, I have a better economy than you, I want to trade, let's trade, come out, let's play, and it didn't go too well, but it's what he needed to do anyway, because I don't think he's planning to transition too hard. He's actually making some Hydras right now, but I'm not sure if that's a unit composition that he's looking for. I guess it's going to be pretty good because Stardust doesn't really have any AoE.
Yeah, I mean, but if the Hydralisk army isn't too terribly big, and the Phoenix army is, you can just lift every single Hydralisk.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Phoenixes, yeah, in large numbers, are so good against Hydras.
Yeah, they do have the extra damage against light, so they completely destroy Hydras if there's enough of them.
Phoenixes are trying to find a chance to begin throwing their darts at the Zerg air. And it looks like DongRaeGu has been favoring the attack upgrades on those Mutalisks instead of trying to get the armor as high.
Yeah, there's Templar Archives on the way now for Stardust. That is the right call. Pulse Crystals is done, so the Phoenix will have the range, and those mutas are not going to be nearly as threatening. Even the Corruptors can get out microed as Phoenix outrange Corruptors with the upgrade by 1.
Uh-oh. Oh.
And
And
there's what
so
you were
it
talking
begins.
about.
Looks like the re-engagement, the Mutalisks step too far forward outside of the range of the Corruptors and take some big hits.
Yeah, all of a sudden I'm liking Stardust's position a lot more. I mean, he needs a 4th, and that's the one thing that's not going too well for him. But other than that, his army composition is fantastic against DongRaeGu. And once he starts adding Templars, it's going to get really scary for the Blue Zerg.
Yeah, I mean, SOS has showed so many times that if you're a Protoss on 3 bases and you just play relatively scrappy, you can be an absolute nightmare for a Zerg on any number of bases.
Yeah, it's just a matter of trading efficiently, especially if you know that they don't like going for swarm hosts or stuff like that. Trading efficiently is not the hardest thing in the world.
Well, it looks like an attack on the 3rd base, excuse me, on the natural. Nothing anywhere in sight. I mean, Stardust has been looking so good all game long, but it's each one of these little mispositioning errors. This is where DongRaeGu is going to get value.
Yeah, and that's what he needed to do. He needed to deny the 4th. He's saying, I will continue to trade against you, and cost inefficiently at that, but you will not get the economy. And now Stardust is getting mined out of his natural. His main is already pretty much mined out. So, you know, the clock is ticking. He needs a 4th, and he needs it now.
Well, it looks like Stardust is just gearing up to do a huge push. I mean, as the Mutalisk count begins to get lower and lower and lower, Protoss has less of a reason to stay home and defend.
Oh, Swarm Hosts, he's making them. And these are this is incredibly smart. He's acknowledged that Stardust has to be running out of steam, and if he defends an attack or 2, he should be golden. DongRaeGu, that is.
Yeah, those are going to be a hard pair of attacks to defend, though. I mean, this army from Stardust, if it begins to engage, there's not a huge amount of damage output from DongRaeGu. The Mutalisks are maneuverable, but they don't function well in direct fights. The Corruptors, all they can do is really corrupt.
Yeah.
And the Phoenixes still have that lifting potential and the damage potential both against air and ground.
Yeah, absolutely. Even against the Swarm Host, the Phoenix would be really helpful if there's an Observer or 2 around.
Yeah. Well, Locusts reveal themselves. I mean, what's going through Stardust's head right now?
He's probably not very happy right now. Is he gonna take the other 4th base? I don't know if I would. I think taking the forward one is a little bit risky against Swarm Host, and there's a big engagement now.
Well, we're seeing continued use of those force fields, but the sentry count that was once very high is down to just a pair. Observers starting to fall. Oh no, there's no detection on the map.
Yeah, Stardust's army is now so mobile, but what is he going to do with that? He needs to go and try to pick off bases. It looks like he's going to the 6th base of DongRaeGu or the 5th base of DongRaeGu.
One of the many, many bases of DongRaeGu. But this could be very tricky to defend for DongRaeGu. He might opt to do a trade and try to eliminate the 3rd instead of pulling back to defend, because that main is very vulnerable, and it looks like Stardust is just going to go for it.
Yeah, but we talked about how Stardust prepared for this. He has many cannons in his third. The Phoenix are taking down the Muta. And now the Stalkers can just blink around and pick up stuff. This is great for Stardust.
This is an amazing position for Stardust to be in. I mean, on 3 bases, he is just having amazing staying power, amazing force. The Hydralisk try to engage, and Stardust says, yes, please, and leaps right into action, blinking on top of them. And now the Hydralisk force is plummeted down. 28 are in production, but 25 Stalkers are still alive for Stardust.
Yep, this was definitely a great moment for Stardust. They're taking down a base, hurting the Hydra numbers. But still, DongRaeGu has the economic lead by quite a bit. Stardust now at 127 supply. He can make a few more units, but he really prefers to go for that 4th now. And that's a late 4th, man. It's a 26-minute 4th.
Phoenixes are trying to find anything that they can, and they've been very high value. On a map like this, the reason Mutalisks are good is the same reason why Phoenixes are good. They're amazing for defense and offense and swinging back and forth to these opposing sides of the map very, very, very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. The resources lost app, I mean, 6,000 resources ahead is Stardust, but he hasn't, like DongRaeGu has mined much more than 6,000 worth over Stardust. So.
Yeah, that units lost tab. Oh no, a cancel. Yeah, that units lost tab never really reveals one of the most important numbers, how much has actually been mined.
Yeah.
All the extra bases of DongRaeGu allowing him to do these inefficient fights. And DongRaeGu still has so many Hydras, 35 on the field. The Templar are going to have to be heroes.
Yeah, and Stardust, his army is just not looking very scary right now. He's still trying to take a fourth, but it's looking dicier and dicier. DongRaeGu's creep spread is now fantastic. Doing any sort of run bys, there's not really any war prisms out on the map that can maybe pull DongRaeGu's armies back or anything like that. The Phoenix are trying to do what they can, but it's tough.
And I even think that trying to get more observers out is going to be hard for Stardust. Wait, what is going on? What is going on? That had to have been a miss hotkey.
Yeah.
Something went uncharacteristically wrong, and DongRaeGu instantly leaps into motion, trying to isolate the swarm hosts.
Yeah. If those Phoenix had been on top of those swarm hosts, I mean, there was an observer on top of them, so they could have picked off a few of those, but they just got air fungled, mind fungled. They were in hold position, right? They weren't even moving.
Wow. Stardust having so much confidence in these Stalkers and these DTs being able to advance forward, knocking down the swarm host count to 2, and suddenly we're starting to see a little bit of hope for Stardust until the Broodlords arrive.
Yeah, that's a little bit too much for him, and DongRaeGu is still with a really big bank. Stardust now has a bunch of Templars. They're going for Storm, obviously, and I'm not sure if that's going to be enough. I mean, they're going to be great against the Hydras, but there's no real answer to the Broodlords right now.
Well, one Tempest is in production. We're seeing the probes transfer right in front of the Hydras. Ooh, a few are going to be able to get by, but, I mean, now there's a huge target on the head of that expansion. These are very high-energy Templar.
Yep, and they're going to land pretty good storms, actually. There's nothing.
Ooh.
Oh, the Stalkers could blink and chase now if he wanted to. That was a great defense. That was a great little win for Stardust.
Oh my god, 32 Mutalisks in production. DongRaeGu pulling a J-Dong.
Switching dongs.
Great dongs think alike.
Yeah. And Tempest now in production, but that's not going to help against the Muta. Not one bit, Sean.
I mean, that is, I think that's an amazing recognition by DongRaeGu to say, oh, you lost all your Phoenixes to try to distract? Perfect. I'm going to build 50 Mutas.
Yeah, that's decision-making like that is hard to make on the spot, but on the Broodlords fall now. And DongRaeGu doesn't even care, I don't think. The Muta should probably just go for the fourth.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a correct sacrifice of units. As weird as it sounds to say, I mean, just tossing away those Broodlords, Stardust still making Colossus, might continue to make Tempest, needs to keep that fourth base alive, 28 workers hanging out at it.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised of where the Muta went, actually. Wow, that was a fantastic storm. And the Muta get pushed back? So far they do, wow, but the fourth is going to fall again. DongRaeGu taking a sixth while this is happening.
Well, let's see how truly efficient Stardust can be. He might even opt to try to clear out the opposite side and take an expansion there. Another excellent storm. I mean, if DongRaeGu continues to be that aggressive with his Mutalisks, he might be his own worst enemy in this fight. But right now, I think the army supplies show what is happening. Yeah, 94 to 67.
Yeah, when the Muta were going to the natural, I was very confused. I was like, why are the Muta going to the natural right now? They're not going to accomplish anything. There's nothing to kill there. And then the entire army gets moved, and DongRaeGu snipes the fourth with Hydra. That was fantastic play by him.
Well, there's some hallucinated Colossus coming down. Obviously not going to be tricking DongRaeGu, but they can absorb a decent bit of damage. But DongRaeGu is able to thwart this. He's overwhelming. He gets the GG. Very excellent play from DRG.
Yeah. That was extremely solid play by him. I mean, he took every advantage that he was given, really, and he never allowed Stardust to expand, and that's what the name of the game was. Stardust really couldn't get economy. He got cost-efficient trades. He got great army control, positioning, everything that you can do, but everything that you can do off of 3-base economy.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one of those examples of how important it is to be very careful with every single unit if you're on those 3 bases. I mean, I think the loss of the Phoenixes was the beginning of the end. Stardust, I think, was able to stay toe-to-toe. Obviously not a great position, as you pointed out, being 6 base on 3 base. It was always behind, yeah. Yeah, being 6 base on 3 base is very, very hard, but we've seen SOS win in that situation many, 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 many times. but it all depends on having the key pieces to the composition there. If the Phoenixes fall, Mutalisks are a possibility. If your Colossus or your Templar fall, Swarm Hosts are an easy way to clean the game out. And I really got to give DongRaeGu so much credit for identifying the weak spots in the composition and just holding whatever button built the counter unit.
Yeah, that's pretty much all he did, and it worked for him fantastically. So I think that Stardust has it in him, though. I mean, he was playing from behind the entire game, and he still put a fantastic fight without any AoE pretty much until the very end.
I'm excited to see what Game 2 has in store, so stay tuned, because when we come back, we'll be continuing the first series of MLG Anaheim Day 2.